This boy and girl are going to be well equipped when the time comes to take their places as worthy members of adult society.
Aloha, y'all. This is Daniel Eisenman, the host of the Breaking Normal podcast, where my guests are all invited based on the frequency of synchronicity, all done in person, and all trailblazers in the breaking of all things normal. We're here. We're live on the 200th. By the way, this is number 200 of the Breaking Normal podcast.
Wow, that's special.
Welcome, John O'Connor.
Yeah, that's great.
Am I wrong? Is there a John O'Connor in like one of the Terminator movies?
John Connor, yeah.
John Connor.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not John Connor from Terminator.
Well, funny fact is that the O'Connors had to remove the O because the British wouldn't give them soup. When they came to get soup, they would say yes, and you would have to remove your O. The British wanted to take the O's away.
Oh.
To the Irish. I just got back from Ireland on Sunday, so I have a whole new take on my ancestry. But yeah, so John Connor, but it's O'Connor, similar clan, same clan. Yeah.
Take the O's away. Because before we press record, we were talking about why am I known as the Ohm Daddy?
Yeah.
And I was showing you the video and explaining a little bit about it, but then you told me you ohmed to your son in the womb.
Yeah.
And that's part of the story with us as well. I think that's why it was so effective when she was outside the womb, because she was used to that inside there.
Right. Yeah.
This is for your son?
Yeah.
Do you have more children?
I have a stepson who's 21.
Stepson's 21. And your son
is 14.
14. What's his name?
Jaden.
Jaden.
Yeah.
So tell me about your Ohm Daddy experience before there was even a phrase known as thing I created.
So that's 15 years ago, I guess, when he was in the womb, because he's 14 and a half now. But yeah, I used to play music and ohm to him, talk to him through the belly. So for 17 years, I was a body worker. I had my own massage therapy studio in New York City. And I had a woman that came one day who had just received a fertilized egg to get, obviously, to IVF. And she came in to get massage. This is probably like 20 years ago. And she said to me, she looked at me, she goes, I just got IVF. I'm really stressed out. I have to get pregnant. I'm going to get on this table and you're going to relax me and I'm going to get pregnant. I mean, she came in with like very clear that this was going to help her get pregnant. And I was like, wow, it doesn't usually work that way. But I was like, let me give you something to kind of pay attention to, a metaphor that maybe can shift the energy a little bit. I said, when you're in a pool and you've got a big beach ball in the water and you rush toward it, what happens to the ball, right? That wave tends to push the ball away. I said, but if you relax and you just kind of come up and let the ball come into you, right? You can't rush towards the ball. You have to just slowly allow it to come in. And I was like, that's kind of what's happening right now, is you're allowing this thing to come in. You're not making it happen. And so she kind of opened up to this idea of receiving versus controlling. She was very type A, and she got pregnant. And then she wound up telling all her friends that, I helped her get pregnant, which actually had a lot of funny jokes to it, right? But I probably worked on, when I was a body worker, 300-400 pregnant women. And I would have these wild experiences of like connecting with the babies in the womb, because I would work on them through the pregnancy, and then I'd work them after pregnancy, and then I get to meet the kids when they came out. So I've had hundreds of kids in wombs that I've, bodies that I've touched, and some are more psychic than others. A lot of them were, it felt like they would come in and out of their body, like their soul would come in and out. Some were very present. You would feel them. Some not so much, but yeah. Wow. So that gave me like a little bit of a sort of a knowing of how to work with babies in wombs.
You're going to relax me and get me pregnant.
Yeah.
That's a good title of this episode.
Yeah.
Number 200.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of approach that many people have when they're trying to create something in the world. There's a lot of control components. I'm going to make this happen.
I currently ran out of copies of Breaking Normal, my book. I didn't get that to you.
No.
I'll have to get one to you, but I have these like little sentiments before each chapter, and one of them is, what you're running away from is chasing you. What you're attached to getting is running away from you. Does that align with what you were?
Yeah. So
I like that beach ball metaphor.
Yeah, it worked for her. To me, it's like the language of the unconscious is metaphor. So sometimes there's a metaphor that really sits and works, and there's a somatic knowing and not just a conceptual knowing. Like, I know I need to relax and just let this happen conceptually, but my body's not operating from that paradigm, from that kind of way of being or knowing. But my kind of introduction to that, I guess, way of thinking is when I got sober 25 years ago now, actually October 4th, as you take a sip of beer, which is totally cool, by the way. I have no problems with that. And I appreciate, actually, I was just in Ireland and I got a chance to drink non-alcoholic Guinness, which was fantastic. It was my first first Guinness in 25 years, but it had no alcohol. It took the alcohol out.
Yeah, but I appreciate too that that's fine with you, and if it
100%.
wasn't, that would be fine with me too. But I definitely appreciate it's fine with you, and it reminds me, I never took a sip of any alcohol until I was like 20, maybe 20 in Cancun in college, when
Wow.
finally people stopped putting pressure on me. One of my friends, who's like now an awesome pediatrician, he had this slick idea of like, don't like, I could even like imagine it behind the scenes, like stop pressuring him to drink, do the opposite.
Wow.
And at one point, I think at dinner, he's like, "Oh no, Daniel doesn't drink. He doesn't drink. It's awesome. He's like our driver." He's kept complimenting me for me not drinking. And I think that night I was like, "I'm gonna finally have a screwdriver."
Wow.
And so I find the social dynamics around alcohol to be very interesting, especially for young men in certain countries versus other countries, even like
How old are you now?
I just had my 40th rotation around the sun.
Wow, 40. Congratulations. I just had my 50th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. And we look kind of
Yeah,
similar,
yeah.
but different. I'm kind of, I'm very curious to know about what you found out with your background trip to Ireland that you just got back from. When did you get back?
Sunday night. So
Sunday night.
it's 3 nights ago.
I sometimes find it easier to fly back west. Do you?
Way easier.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I was right back on track.
And was that a nonstop flight, Dublin and Denver?
Denver's
That's
got
a
a
cool flight.
It's great. Yeah, yeah. It's
How
very
long?
cool.
How many hours was that?
9 hours.
9. Okay,
Yeah.
because when I get to Iceland, it's like 7.5.
Yeah, it was
there.
9.5. It was like 9 coming back, like 8.5 there.
Okay, all right.
But on your question around, where I learned that piece when I got sober, one of the guys had said, it's not about wanting what you don't have. It's learning to want what you do have, and orienting to relaxing into what you have. Because at that time, I think I was in that self-improvement, self-development model that most people are in, which is I want to improve, I want to transform, constantly transforming. At 25, I was constantly this next version of myself, this next developmental leap. And the switch was, can I relax into who I am, right? I was transforming and trying to develop because I wasn't able to relax into who I am. I wasn't comfortable with who I was. I didn't think I was enough on some level. But that practice of like wanting what I have, I still do that at 50, where I'm just relaxing into, what do I have? Wow, can I want that? Can I relax into that? Can I feel a deep sense of like appreciation, a desire for that?
Can you give us a prime example of this?
Let's see. I'll give you an exact one that I did the other day, which is like, I think it happens around, I think the main place that I typically work this, even with my clients, is around relationship to enough. Like, what is enough? And this unconscious thing of, I don't have enough, whether that's time, money, usually money is the big one. And so when people are trying to, they have these money goals. When I get that, then I'll feel this, right? When I get a certain amount of money, then I'll be able to feel safe, feel relaxed, feel successful. Mm-hmm. And so I've had to do that many times, many cycles. And I've done that with a lot of clients, many cycles at different levels, whether they're worth $100 million, $50 million, $10 million, $1 million, all the way down. But relaxing into what you currently have. So I have a roof over my head, very successful business, like relaxing into, there are these goals, which creates a space where I have lack, the thing that I don't have the thing I want. But when I actually have the thing I want, I can relax into that. Then I can create from a very relaxed, open, full, abundant place, right? This whole thing of like, I want to be abundant. It's like, well, you are really abundant right now with what you have. And can you learn how to do that? Can you learn how to relax into that? And so,
what do you think? I imagine that's a very common story people tell themselves, is when I have this amount of money,
Sure.
then.
Yeah.
What is the common thens?
Well, if you're flown in a cockpit of an airplane 10 hours, you never get to the horizon. It's always the same distance, right? And so there's this sort of future goal, when I get that, then I'll feel this, right? I'll feel a certain way. I'll have a certain state of being. But there are many people who achieve goals. And I get this a lot when I coach founders who exit and they have money, and they thought they would feel a certain way and they don't, right? There was an assumption about how they would feel once they got the thing, whether that's a family or a wife or an exit, whatever that is. But yeah, there is this sense of like the separation, like my state of being is tied to a future event. And we kind of need to kind of like move out of that paradigm that I need to have something to feel a certain way. I'll give you an example because you were asking me about Ireland. So I did my son, I've never been to Ireland. It's my first trip to Ireland. My great grandfather was born in Limerick and then got married and moved to New York City where he had 10 kids. And I've never been to Ireland, and I've been feeling this I've been doing a lot of ancestral healing work. And my son came home one day and asked me if he could go to camp in Ireland out of the blue. And I was like, absolutely. So, my son actually took me to Ireland, which is really interesting. But I dropped him off to camp and I spent 8 days by myself, 2,000 kilometers driving across the whole country. And I wound up in this little peninsula, the Beara Peninsula down by Castleberry, and stayed at a Dzogchen Buddhist retreat center. And I was just kind of Googling some stuff to do, and they had a pop-up barrel sauna on the beach, like wood-fired.
Oh, nice.
So
At the Buddhist center,
right on the beach,
or
like a town next to it,
okay, awesome.
Alahis, which is a little town in the Beara
on.
Peninsula.
Do you remember the name of that business? I almost like want to look
It's
it up.
like barrel sauna carry or something.
Okay.
It's like they're popping up all over Ireland on the beaches. So you barrel sauna, you get in the sauna, you jump in the ocean. Kind of do that. It's €20 for the hour.
And they'll probably do the same thing right after this at the G Fine Park
Okay,
at
great.
Boulder Creek.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been to Ember and Ice, but they
No,
have a
yeah.
wood barrel.
Oh, cool.
Wood fire barrel sauna. You can go back
Fantastic.
and forth.
Yeah.
But
I have a barrel
love
sauna
this.
and a cold plunge in my backyard. So
Okay,
I do that a lot. So
This explains some of our connections. I imagine.
Yeah. And there was an Irish guy, tending the fire,
Okay.
who was really cool. And towards the end, there was like a trailer park where the guy lived. And one of the other guys came out, put a chair out, and started cutting his hair, like buzzing his hair. And these guys live in this little trailer park, little tiny seaside town. And there's something about the Irish, it was like an hour of us taking a piss with each other, like jabbing each other, but like because it felt like family. I actually felt like I was home. It was a very strange feeling.
Wow.
But there was a moment where this guy was cutting this guy Trevor's hair, and it was like really cloudy and foggy. It was like 9:30 at night, which it's like bright as hell at 9:30.
Yeah,
right?
I know that. I know a little bit about that.
And
Wow.
we're kind of standing there, and I had just gotten out of the ocean, and he stopped. He turned his clicker off, and he looked, and he goes, "Boys, life is good. Doesn't get better than this." Like just from like such a pure, true, grateful place. Life is fucking good. And I was like something popped in me. I was like, yeah, life is good. And he's like, and he just went back to cutting hair, and it was just this like deep sense of gratitude for life in its simplest form. And that was like really impactful. You come back here and there's people who have so much and they're so unhappy or unfulfilled or filled with anxiety or depression or worry. It left a very powerful imprint in me because I had a deep sense of gratitude and appreciation for life, but he just like dropped the bar, like really, really deep for me.
And that reminds me of a story. If people have been listening to this podcast, they've probably heard a few times, but going through Nicaragua, we were hosting a retreat and we were driving to go get like a goat of sorts to have for dinner that night. And we went through some very poverty type areas of Nicaragua. And my brother pointed out to like the driver that, man, these kids, they look like they have nothing, but they look so happy. And the driver said something along the lines of like, yeah, it's interesting. It seems like the less people have, the less they need. And it seems that shows up around the world. I've heard a lot of people that go on these like philanthropic mission trips, and it seems like they're the ones that got the service, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, there was just a deep sense of appreciation and gratitude for just being, which was nice. It was nice to feel that.
So did you have an intention on this trip, because amazingly enough, as y'all know, the schedule of this podcast is synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got back from Hawaii about 3 weeks ago, it was the day we had flown overnight, and then something happened where there was this delay. And I even told Davina, I was like, well, I guess God has better plans for us today. So we ended up going to hang out and wonder a little bit, and there was just like a popping off of synchronicities, including wonder, people wanting to potentially carry tribe vitamins, and then we're walking out, and then I run into you, and you're like, "Hey, Daniel, I'm John," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I recognize you from one of the Let's Do podcasts with Jason,
Mm-hmm.
who I had just interviewed," and you're like, "I was just on the phone with my friend in Hawaii who wants to carry your products,"
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "I'm about to go to Ireland on this trip," and you explained what you were going there for, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounded like it was to connect with your ancestry.
Yeah, there was a couple layers to it that evolved. And so in one of my morning practices, I had this like deep, wow, it's a big story. How do I go into this story? So I'll set some context for you. So like 2 years ago, I got my family constellation certification, which is basically ancestral healing work.
Mhm.
It's like, when you're struggling with something and you've tried all these things to kind of heal it or clear it, but nothing's touching it, sometimes that signals that there's something ancestral that's entangled, right? And I got really curious about my own ancestral connection, and I've had a few ancestral openings. The first one that was very significant was 17 years ago. I was living in New York City. I had just celebrated my 8th year sober, and I was in this coffee shop, and there was a little poster for oneness blessings, the Diksha healings from India. Do you know where they do the laying of the hands and they bless your pineal gland and they wake up your third eye?
I've heard of such things.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar personally.
Yeah,
with
it's like
that.
Tony Robbins actually that healed his wife
Okay.
of like a incurable kind of vertigo thing that she had.
Oh wow.
And so now when you're in Tony's kind of high level platinum program, everybody gets a Diksha healing.
Interesting.
And so there was this woman doing it in like an acting studio for $25. So I pulled a little tag, with the little address on it. And I show up to this, acting studio. There's a little Indian woman who's 4'9" sitting, and there's probably like 20 people in the studio. And she walked around just laying hands on people's heads, doing this Diksha blessing. And when she came around to me, I had this like incredible vision. When I was a kid, I mean, you probably did this too, where you have all the pieces of paper folded and you cut a gingerbread man and then you fan it out,
Yeah,
right? And you have like
yeah.
100 gingerbread men
Yeah.
fan out. And so I saw my father, and it was almost like she peeled back every one of my father's fathers like a gingerbread man,
Wow.
all the way back to the first man. And it felt like in that moment, I got reconnected to like my Y chromosome, basically, like my father's fathers, like all the way back on my Irish side.
Wow.
And
how long ago was this?
So that was April 9th. And the reason why I know that, because I came home that day and my doorbell rang, and it was my friend Suki, she's like, "Hey, I'm here for your party." And I was like, "I don't have a party." It's that I just sent out an email that I was going to throw a party the following weekend, but she thought that it was that night. And she's like, "That's so weird. I thought your party was tonight." She's like, "Is it okay if I come up? I just had this crazy ancestral experience doing family constellations."
That's what she said?
That's what she said.
Okay.
She had like a similar ancestral thing
Okay.
occur. And so she comes up and we're hanging out on the couch. And we had been dancing 5 rhythms together for 1.5 years with Gabrielle Roth.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so we were very close friends and had a very good rapport and connection. And I owned a massage therapy studio. I was acting and producing music. And she was working at a hedge fund, had a 4-year-old and a nanny. Like we were very different
Wow.
places in our lives, right? She was a little older as well. And something happened, her sitting on my couch, and I think she put her feet up, and I think I massaged her feet, and we've been married ever since. So we've been married for 16 years.
Was the day that happened when she came over the same day you got the?
Yeah.
Oh.
And she had just gone
wow.
through something very similar. So
Wow.
so there was something deeply connected,
Wow.
something opened up for both of us. And you can't script this stuff. It's people like, "How'd you meet your wife?" And it's like, well,
And where were y'all at?
in New York City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an incredible story.
And so that was like my first, I think, ancestral opening. That was 16 years ago. And I've had a few others, but there was a friend of mine had forwarded me a training that was happening with Family Constellations. And when I talked to the woman, I did like an intro session to see if it would be a good fit for me for the program. And I had this real clear vision that it was almost like there was a fiber optic cable coming out of the back of my heart, and it was all frayed. You know how like they have those little slivers of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
light. It just felt like there was very few that were making its way to me in my ancestral lineage. There was a couple, and she had said like your next developmental leap is you what's required is the support from the ancestors. It's like I had no connection to where I came from. You know, I grew up in Staten Island, New York, and I knew my grandparents, but that was it. I didn't really have any knowing of up that you know, down my ancestral line. And so in that training, another context here was I had never been to Europe, and I've been everywhere, Asia, South America. I traveled all over,
And
but
when was this training?
this
Just
was
so-
2 years ago.
Okay, okay, cool. I'm
And
following.
I had never been to Europe. I'd always tried to go to Europe, and it was almost like there was a force field over Europe, and I could never penetrate it. It was the strangest thing. And I did a constellation in that workshop with a Jamaican woman who was in her 60s, and she had this entanglement with her grandfather, who was Irish, who had moved to Jamaica in like 1920 and married 4 women and had 18 children with 4 different Jamaican women. I don't know if the Irish and the Jamaicans is like a really interesting
Well, it's
connection.
amazing. I've been the part of Jamaica I've been to. I'll try
Lot
to
of
make this
Irish
real
last
quick.
names.
We were going to go to Kingston, and we met this family on the plane,
Mm.
and we were the raw bras. My two brothers and I eating fruits around the world. We were on
Mm.
this raw vegan diet, so we're like, we're just going to eat fruit, and they're like, you don't want to go to Kingston? Come to us in Mondeville.
Mm.
And Mondeville is this settlement of Irish people.
Hmm.
So there was all black Jamaicans and like scattered white people.
Yeah.
They were all Irish,
Yeah.
and then just us, the 3 American white guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I learned a little bit about this Irish Jamaican connection on that trip.
There's also an Irish Native American connection, which I'll share later, that I learned about in Ireland. But so in the family constellation, basically they set up a constellation with a bunch of different people representing different family members in the ancestral chain. And so I represented the grandfather in this constellation, this Irish
Okay.
grandfather. And it was, and if you've, you know, for people who don't know what family constellation is, it's this really incredible process for healing ancestral trauma that was developed by the Zulu nation. And Bert Hellinger lived with the Zulu people for 30 years and developed this protocol or way of healing through the Zulu people. They had a very specific way in which they did ancestral healing. And so I represented the grandfather, who was Irish, and I had this incredible experience where, like, as I started to represent the grandfather, I could feel my legs like not being able to stand still. Like I couldn't stand still. It was like the strangest feeling. And it turned out that grandfather had birthed 4 of the most famous Jamaican musicians in Jamaica. He was like a master musician, and all of his kids had musical genius. And so here I am representing the grandfather, and I'm starting to feel this like movement of music. And everything that I saw through the lens of creativity and art. Because the constellation had a lot of pain. There was like the famine march, which I've learned in Ireland. It wasn't a famine march. It was the Great Hunger, because they had the food in Ireland. It was just the British were exporting it. They were not giving it to the Irish. And there was a whole famous thing in Parliament where they made a decision to not feed the Irish. Like many of them died. And so I got a chance. I learned so much and reconnected to my Irish lineage there. But there was some healing that occurred in that. And as soon as I finished that constellation, I got invited to Europe like 3 or 4 times. So as soon as that healing occurred, something like reconnected, this was last year that the training stopped. And interestingly enough, they say when you do an ancestral healing, everybody in the family unit begins to heal. And my mom went to Italy out of the country for the first time, out of the blue.
Wow.
Right. And then my son comes home and says, Dad, can I go to Ireland for camp? Right. So all these things started to occur in a really interesting way. And so one of my intentions was to reconnect and explore. The last High King of Ireland was Rory O'Connor, O'Concover. And there's something about that relationship. I went to where he was buried. I went to where he spent, 20 years in a monastery. I went to the whole area and reconnected. But one of the big intentions was to bring my dad's ashes. and to spread my dad's ashes in Ireland with my son, which I did. I only had a small aspect of my dad's ashes. My mom has most of them, but we went to the Hill of Tara, which is this, they call it the heart of Ireland. And they have a 3,000-year-old stone there where they used to coronate the kings. And all the roads from Ireland lead to this one hill. So it was like where all the kings used to gather. And I released his ashes there and just kind of released him back to the ancestors. And it was very profound. It felt like something healed deeply inside. It's hard to put words to it. I don't know if you've ever done anything like that, but it's sort of transcends language. It's living at a really deep place, but it feels like, and I actually looked at my son and I said, when I die, this is what you're going to do with me. You know, I want you to come here and spread my ashes. And it's something that I never, like, in our culture, we don't talk about death. We're not prepared. And I think there's a lot of anxiety that I see really stemming from this, like, people not reconciling the fact that everybody here is going to disappear. Everybody you love is going to die. And we have to sort of reconcile that in a deep way. And it's something that I've been trying to loop in with my son, is like bring that into the conversation and make that a real thing. And in the Buddhist traditions, they contemplate death all the time. But it's really hard to contemplate death and actually contemplate it to where you feel the reality of it, because there's still a defense mechanism in the brain that doesn't allow you touch it and then it goes away, right? You get an aspect of it and then you feel the flood. And then we shut down a little bit. And I think I've been trying slowly to loop that into his consciousness, you know, so that he's prepared at some point when I die.
Yeah, that's it's different to think about death from my daughter's perspective of me dying. That's maybe about the saddest perspective I could.
It changes when you're a father. Like, when I wasn't a father, it's like, yeah, death, whatever. It's all good. I'm cool with death. And then when you have a child, it adds a whole other element. It's not only about you anymore, right? And I think a lot of guys, there's a lot of me, I, self, until they become a father. And then they realize, wow, it's not all about me. Like, there's something greater here, and there's a deep sacrifice. I mean, I'm curious how your shift with your daughter, was there a shift for you going from, like, you know, not having a kid to having a kid?
Yeah, I mean, it showed up right away because she was born in Encinitas, California, and we were just like, I purposely live right next to the creek now. I was purposely living between a couple of my favorite surf spots. And right away it showed up in, like, surfing. I'm like, after Davina was born, I was like, what am I doing out here? Like, especially on dangerous days. There was, like, just days that it was, like, dangerous, like boards flying a little bit, and you're kind of taking a risk dropping into a certain, I don't know if you've surfed or you surfed.
I'm a terrible surfer.
Okay, yeah, there's a couple danger, like, there's this one wave for San Diego people called Ponto that's a little dangerous on a good day, and I became less interested in that right away.
Yeah.
I became much more interested in, like, realizing I have a responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not only a response, it's like whenever you mix the word honor and responsibility, like an honor of a lifetime and the responsibility of a lifetime. And yeah, I think it shows up in a lot of ways, but it definitely showed up in that way right away. I remember that clearly. I think there was also, when I think of the family constellation type of experiences, I used to host health retreats every quarter for about 11 years. And we had someone, a specialist, that came in and facilitated an experience. And for someone that doesn't know I don't know what I did compared to what you do, but I remember there was like 3 of us and we embodied different people in the person's life that they were trying to heal an issue with. And that it did seem like some people were starting to embody this person, even though they've never met them.
Even though they never met them, there's stuff starts to come through, and it sounds really woo until you do it.
Well, yeah, and so I am very skeptical. I'm very, like, skeptical, but I'm also very faithful.
Sure.
But this is one of these experiences, and I've had an experience with acupuncture as well, where I'm like, okay, this is legit. Like, I don't know, maybe it's not legit for everybody all the time, but this experience with this Talia from Encinitas giving me acupuncture and certain Chinese herbs definitely awoken that I'm like, okay, I understand why this has been a practice for so long. And then the same thing happened with the family constellations. I didn't realize the origins were in the Zulu
Zulu,
tribes of
yeah,
Africa.
yeah.
So for the novice, for someone hearing about this the first time, do you mind explaining what
Yeah, I'll
this
do my best
work
to explain
is
it.
and maybe how someone gets introduced to it? Because I
Yeah,
felt blessed that we had this expert at the retreat
yeah,
that we were hosting.
yeah, yeah. Dan Cohen and Emily Blofeld, they were my two teachers, and it's one of those things where it's really hard to explain, but there's a way in which um, they believe that, you know, when you die, it's not death. Energy never dies, just transforms. But there's a consciousness that still lives in the field, in the quantum field, that you can tune into. And there are these sort of like orders of like one of the takeaways for me has been like the greatest thing that people need is to feel like they belong. Like they'll, you know, obviously like integrity and telling the truth is one thing, but people will lie and be out of integrity if it means that they can belong and be part of. And we see that in our culture all the time, right? There's a deep sense of belonging. And sometimes in family systems, there's a lot of rifts where people are excommunicated or not included in the field, in the lineage, or forgotten in some way, shape, or form. And our culture doesn't really do a great job honoring the ancestors. I was never trained in that. I had no education on ancestral connection. And so for me, I mean, I'm still learning and developing, understanding what's happening here. But the more that you begin to open and listen and connect to all of the people that came before you, and it's actually really interesting. Like we did this one exercise where, you know, I'm an O'Connor, and so I've always identified as an O'Connor. But if you think about it, there's like four lineages. You know, there's my mother's father, my mother's mother, my father's mother, my father's father. So there's like four last names, like O'Connor, Duffy, DiGaetano, and Fiscaldo. And there are these like four lines that kind of coalesce in our genetic code. And if you think about epigenetics and how things are passed down through the genetic code and through the genetic line, I actually believe that all of that wisdom, all of that energy is stored inside, and it's there for us to access. And there's you know, I wish I could do a better job really explaining it. I kind of go in there and just surrender and listen for, you know, like the first place where the entanglements occur is usually mother and father. You know, the first place that people have to do healing is releasing that resentment, judgment, victimization, blaming that happens with our parents. And if people don't really heal that component, they're never really sovereign or empowered.
Mm-hmm.
And so that first place to go and take a look at, wow, like what is the entanglement with my dad? What is the stories and the judgments that I have about how I was raised? And I hear that a lot. You know, I'm this way because when I was a kid, my dad did X, Y, and Z. And so there's a sense of like blame and victim, and I'm at the effect of my upbringing or how I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
I think there comes a point, and especially for men, where they have to kind of reclaim and integrate and take a look at whatever has happened from birth till now has been part of your medicine, your journey. It's here for your growth and your development. How are you with your kind of father and mother kind of relationships? Do you feel like there's a healthy through line there?
Blessed to say yes for the most part, but I am sure there are things to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been interesting too because I almost felt like when I was younger, the connection with my mother was much stronger
Mm-hmm.
than my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I got older, my connection is much stronger with my dad than my mother. And I do sense there's got to be now like a full integration of both, like not more than the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're made up of 50% your mom and 50% your dad. Yeah. I had a old mentor who used to say, like, when you take a step into something that's way over your head or out of your, you know, beyond what you think you can do, that's when the ancestors come and support you and help you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, in that ancestral journey, there's something about people feeling alone or by themselves or lonely. And since I've been doing the ancestral work, I don't actually ever feel that way. I don't feel lonely or alone. I traveled, you know, 8 days by myself all through Ireland. I actually never felt alone. I felt like really connected. I felt, yeah, I just felt like that I carry in me, all the people that came before me, you know?
Wow. Was your son with you when you did the
Yeah.
ashes?
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
that moment.
That was very
Just
powerful.
y'all two?
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, his friend had gone to camp with him, so he actually took some photos of us because I wanted to really get some beautiful photos. I'll show you later some of the photos. Um, and yeah, it's interesting. Like one of the things that's was really impactful with this trip in Ireland is that because I use this as a model. And this is something that I learned when I stopped drinking, which is what's the decision that I can make today that tomorrow when I reflect on it, it's a resource. It feels I feel good when I think about the thing that I did. And that was sort of one of the things that I was taught how to think through a drink. Like if I was going to take a drink, I would first go, okay, I'm going to imagine myself drinking, waking up the next morning, and is my head in my hands, like down like this, or is my head up in the sky going, yeah, I'm so grateful that I took a drink last night. And then I would use that future memory or future thought to then make the decision in present time. And I use that a lot to actually stay sober in the beginning.
Hmm.
But something built out of that as like a way of being, which is when I make a decision or I have an experience or I set something up, my thought is, how can I make that memory a resource? And what I've realized, even with my dad's ashes, what's more powerful than that moment, there were so many beautiful things, is the way it's living in my memory. It's the way in which I reflect back on it. And as I think back to it and shape it and reflect it, almost like build out the experience. Because as we were doing it, there were this beautiful like grove of trees where there was hundreds of crows just cawing
Hmm.
and sun was setting. Like it was just a really magical space. So like in my memory, when I think about that moment, I can hear the crows. And then as I was walking home, every 5 feet there was a crow feather. And I picked up every one of them along the way when I went back to my car. So I have like 20 crow feathers that I took that I've now brought home and put on our altar at home, our tea altar, where we do our tea ceremonies in the morning. So there's something about the memory of like doing things and then being able to reflect and have that memory be a resource, be something that fills you up. And I don't know about you, but like most people that I work with, there isn't a practice or a ritual of reflection. There's a constant focus on where I am and what I need to do, sort of this forward focused view of life. There isn't a moment where they stop and allow themselves to kind of marinate in an experience and allow themselves to be filled up through what they just went through or metabolize their experience. That's a big part of like the work that I do is really teaching people how to metabolize what they have experienced, right? Most people have like parasites in their psychic intestines where they'll go through a ton of experience, but it just goes right through them. They don't really extract the lessons or the learnings or the nutrients into their body because they're going so fast. And so I've really cultivated my system to, have experiences. And sometimes I'll have judgment around an experience like, oh, I wish I would have dropped in deeper in this experience. But then I realized, wow, I can actually drop in deeper in my memory of that experience.
Experience, like I'm trying to like summarize this idea, like experience assimilation optimization.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there was a woman in the Buddhist retreat that I was at, and she was sitting there, every day reading this book. I think she was going through a grief process. And she was saying, like, it's the first time. She's like, I never do this. I never just stop. I'm always going. I never just stop and like do something for myself. And that was like, it was really like strange to me because that's like sort of foreign language because that's such an integral part of my life is having that, I sit for 90 minutes every morning for tea ceremony with my wife. And so she and I actually first thing in the morning, we get up, we sit for 90 minutes in stillness together.
Every day?
Every day. Yeah.
That's an amazing,
Yeah.
Because I talked to Matt Chandler today, and it sounds like you know each
Yeah.
other, and he mentioned about the tea ceremonies. That sounds awesome. Do you drink like pu'er tea, or
Yeah,
what, is
yeah.
is it always pu'er?
Yeah, my wife's really into growing like medicinal plants in our backyard now. So she's exploring all these different, kind of herbs and plants and mugwort and borage and bachelor's button, all these different plants. So she's really into mixing different flowers in the tea. I'm just sort of a straight dark pu'er, straight into the ground
I love the
type
pu'er
experience.
tea.
Yeah.
Do you have any good recommendations?
Well,
Oh,
I do a monthly men's sit at my house if you want to come on the 17th. Great guys.
okay.
Yeah.
That's very possible. Are we past the 17th though?
August 17th,
Okay, what's is the date today? The 20th?
23rd or something.
23rd.
Yeah, so 22nd, 23rd. It's the Tesla earning call. It's the 23rd in the back of my head.
I saw some interesting thing yesterday. It's funny you mentioned the Tesla thing. I forwarded it to my dad and my brother because my brother, he's sort of in the car business. He buys and sells cars in Georgia as like a side hustle, maybe sometimes main hustle. And there was this guy talking about how Tesla's robo taxis things are right on the edge, and in certain cities, if you have a Tesla,
Yeah.
that you're going to be able to rent your.
Yeah.
You can just make money with the
Yeah, their
Tesla.
whole vision is that, my wife has a Tesla, I have a Tesla. And
Okay.
so we could put our Teslas into autonomous cycle. So if you need a car, it comes, leaves my house, picks you up, takes you where you want to go, and you can make money.
A robo Uber,
Yeah.
and you're making money by.
Yeah.
And it sounded like the guy was talking about some pretty good pay. I'm not sure if this is theoretical
yeah.
or.
It's going to completely disrupt Uber, and I don't think people really know what's coming. It's coming in a very big way.
When do you think that's coming to Boulder? I haven't seen any robo taxi things here. Have you?
I haven't. No, I was in San Francisco, and Waymo was
I've heard
very
that.
active,
Okay.
and most people preferred Waymo. Like most people prefer not to have a driver. Like I went in there and I was like, this is great. Like I got in, I was by myself. I didn't have to talk to anybody. They weren't playing music. It's like, welcome, what would you like to listen to? And the cool thing with Tesla now, if you have a Tesla and you get into a robotaxi, it has all your preferences, puts your music on for you. Like it's completely customizable.
What about your own? Can you use your own Tesla as a
Not yet,
robo
but that's the vision.
Okay, yeah.
Is that if you own a Tesla, you can then put it into the fleet.
And even for yourself, like if you just want to drive somewhere, but you want to do some work on the road, then you can just have your
Like I
road-
drove down here on autopilot, and so, but they have it right now. It's not full self-driving, so it's still attention monitoring. And if your eyes go down, it like alerts,
If
and then
your
it bans you.
eyes go
Yeah, if it has a camera that watches your
Wow,
eyeballs.
That's kind of crazy.
And if you go down for more than 8 seconds, it starts to blink, and then if you stay there, it bans you, and it doesn't allow you to autopilot
Whoa.
because of the safety reasons,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, but what I do is I put my sunglasses on. And so like I drove down here just kind of meditating on the way down. And it's quite profound. I've driven from Aspen to here on full autopilot, from Aspen to here the whole way.
Wow.
Like no problems. I-70, windy roads. It's pretty spectacular.
I wonder how that handles in the snow, because sometimes I think
Not
about
so
that
great.
pass.
Yeah, I don't trust it in the snow.
Yeah.
That's the one place that I think they're gonna have a hard time.
Do you think it goes like too fast, or is it like too aggressive, or it just doesn't understand the subtleties?
Well, it's
of
all
the...
cameras, so I think when you're driving in the snow, if the cameras get blocked, it's reduced
Okay.
visibility. But yeah, it's gonna be fascinating to see. I don't know, people. I wouldn't underestimate Elon's kind of vision. He's done incredible things. I know he's a very polarizing figure. Most people don't like him. I'm neutral.
I'm
to
pretty
his-
neutral. I'm pretty
yeah.
neutral about him, but the results of what he's doing are profound, and those cars
Totally.
are kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
when we were in Hawaii. That's what we were driving. What's the timing? 43. Oh man, 4 minutes off. I'm putting too much pressure on myself. I usually guess at 47.
Okay.
What was that? I know there's something weird going on.
Yeah, you're 43.
4 minutes premature. How do people follow you if they want to stay
it's-
in touch?
It's interesting. I just started doing social media stuff. It just has been something that, in terms of my lifestyle, I try to really control where I put my attention. And just social media has not been something that I want to get wrapped up in.
Yep.
But it's one of these things now. I just launched my own podcast called The Reframe
Okay.
on Spotify. So
Okay, great.
Reframe by John O'Connor. Jason and I is our first episode.
Nice.
And so there's I think my old frame around social media was sort of an old model of what it is, and now I'm looking at it going, wow, actually this is a really great way to plug in, build community, have conversations, and also just the people that I meet traveling the world now. I meet so many great people, and it's just a wonderful way to stay plugged in and connected. And so I just started doing that. I had an Instagram account that I tried to verify, and then they banned me saying I went against guidelines. And I only had 3 posts, which were like a family picture and my
Hmm.
sobriety thing. It was very strange, and I could never get someone on the phone, and I couldn't get anybody, and they just basically had thousands of followers, and I could never reclaim it. And I just got really, yeah, it was very like, wow, they can do that. I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't get
Oh
anybody on the
yeah, I know
phone.
that. That page I was telling you about
Yeah,
when the Om Daddy video went viral, that page is gone.
yeah, and they just take it from you.
And
Yeah,
I was like, and I
yeah.
guess that video, I mean, that might have been one of like the most viral videos ever made. And I'm like, is that just gone?
Wow,
Like the original upload?
wow,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. So I just opened up a new Instagram account. I think it's John O'Connor.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
We'll tag that
yeah,
in
sweet.
the show notes as
Yeah.
well. Is there anything you want to make sure that we talk about that we have maybe not talked about?
Hmm. Yeah, nothing's coming to mind. Yeah,
Cool.
it's just nice to hang and chat with you
It
and
is.
yeah,
I
and
was
jam.
struck by that synchronicity in front of wonder for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, it's funny. So I do this thing now. I had a client, someone had reached out. There's a billionaire family in New York that owns a lot of real estate, and they had 4 kids. And I was coaching one of his friends. He's like, "Hey, can you help me? I'm trying to organize my kids to take over my empire, right? And I need a little help here." And so I kind of like got in with the family and really started to take a look at like how do we orient these kids to step into potentially taking over for the father. Um, their oldest son was autistic, and that I did what I could with that. They were an incredible family, just a really sweet, incredible, dynamic family. But their older son was autistic, and I took a liking to him, and I started to work with him a little bit. And I asked him like, what do you really want to do? Like what? And he had severe autism, like very like no affect,
Hmm.
no social kind of skills, but
Oh.
was self-functioning, lived on his own, he could drive, and all he wanted to do was make Legos. Just wanted to make Legos. I just want to build Legos.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I don't know what I can do there, like in terms of like helping you in that way. I was like, but just give me a minute. Like, let me just see what I can do. And I come in and I facilitate and help men's groups, that are already formed. If they want to take their group deeper, sometimes I'll come in and I'll do a couple cycles with them to take the group deeper. And there was one group I had been working with for like 4 years. And they had a new guy that joined, and I did an exercise, and someone just offhand said, "Oh, of course you drew X, Y, and Z. You're like the top Lego builder in the world." And I was like, tell me more about that. What do you mean? And then this one guy builds all the Lego sets for the Lego movies. He's
Mm-hmm.
like the #1 Lego builder in the world. And I was like, hey, we need to chat. And I actually wound up putting the two of them together, and they've been working together for 2 years.
Wow.
And that kid just had his first showing, his first Lego artist
Oh man, that's
showing.
awesome.
And so it's been like an incredible and so I just usually when someone's like, hey, do you know anybody X, Y, and Z? Or I think he had saw you or something. He's like, oh, I would love to meet that guy. I was like, well, I don't know him. Like, give me a minute. Like, I'll reach out to Jason. I'll get an introduction.
Mhm.
And literally 30 minutes later, there you were in Wonder, right? So there's something about like, hey, let me open up the portals and see where this is going to come into my world. I have no idea. But I don't need to know. I just need to have an intention. And then I need to kind of walk through the world open and listen. And usually something connects. That one was a quick one. That was like a 30-minute one. That was
In that 30 minutes, it might have been 30 minutes prior to that when something very strange happened. I almost forget it was because I was so like out of my mind. We just flew overnight, and I fell asleep at the airport, and I almost missed the bus, and it was just a little messy, mind oriented. And Davina and I were both like, "What are we gonna do now?" And I just remember I'm like, "Well, God," I just remember thinking, like, even explaining to her what I mean, like God might have a better. What do you mean by that? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe we'll go to Wonder and like we'll meet someone. I think I even said
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. I'm like, and so we just kind of changed our attitude, and we're gonna go chill and Wonder, and things just the portal was open.
It's a really great way to live. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to the rule, which is like, the Chinese farmer story.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to tell it,
Yeah,
if
well,
you got
it's
it in you, I think it's a great story. And
yeah.
think
I mean,
enough people have heard it.
it's basically this, parable, right? A Chinese farmer, spends all this time to save up enough money to buy a horse, and finally he gets a horse to plow his land, and everybody from the town comes over and is like, wow, what good luck, you have a horse. And he's like, yeah, maybe, we'll see, right? And the next day the horse wound up running away, and he loses this horse, and the town comes around, everybody's coming around going, oh my God, what bad luck. And he's like, I don't know, we'll see, right? That horse the next day comes with like 10 horses, and everybody gathers around like, oh my God, what good luck. Like, you have these 10 horses now. And it just goes back and forth, right? The son rides the horse, falls off, breaks his leg. And then the town comes over, my God, what bad luck. You have no one to plow your farm with. And he's like, well, let's see. And then like a week later, there was a war going on, and they were recruiting able-bodied men, and they passed over this son. And I go, oh my God, what great luck. And it just goes back and forth, like, where you don't really know, is something good, is something bad. Now, there are exceptions outside of the bell curve. Of course, there are things, you lose a child, something tragic happens, that's bad. But for the most part, day to day, the things that we are framing as bad, we have no idea whether it's good or bad. And I like to use that as an operating frame no matter what's occurring. And then you seem to have embodied that, which is, I don't know, is this bad, is this good, what are we going to do? I don't know. Let's see. And only time will tell. If you're open and you're listening for something new to occur. Have you ever listened to like Living Through the Placebo?
No, but the last conversation on yesterday with Dr. Isabella was all about that
Yeah.
concept. I don't know, is that a book or is it?
No, so it's actually, when I got my NLP trainer training, my mentor, he does a little side thing. He's like, I'm gonna teach you guys how to live from a placebo, right? And the metaphor he used was like, if you look at clinical trials for MDMA, right, ecstasy, basically there's two pills. There's a sugar pill and an MDMA pill. And you don't know which one you're going to get. So you go into an experience, full on mask, therapist, lighting, music, the whole nine, and you take a pill, but you don't know, is this a sugar pill or is this an MDMA pill? And so the placebo effect is, I'm expecting something good to occur, and then I'm going to look for signs and evidence that it is, right? And so there's a really interesting story of a friend of mine who actually took the sugar pill and had a full on MDMA experience. Like full on, like even the therapist thought that he had a full on experience. And so
I just had such a flashback of time in college when one of my friends apparently got sick. He was the drunkest we've ever seen him. And then my friend explained to me that he had taken the liquor out of that drink. Like that was a virgin drink that he was drinking. And we just let it continue.
Wow.
And he kept getting drunker.
Yeah. So there's this placebo component, because it can go the other way. It can go the negative way.
Yeah,
right?
And this is what we were talking about with doctors and certain diagnoses, and like what a profound concept that is, to just lay a diagnosis on someone.
Yeah,
like who has the power to do such a thing.
But living through a filter of living through the placebo, which is, I'm expecting something good to occur, and then I'm going to look for signs that it is. So if you think about like the way that the conscious mind filters information, it only is able to filter like what, 5 plus or minus 2 bits of information per second, like the conscious mind. And so we delete a lot of information. There's so much occurring, but I'm deleting or distorting or generalizing things. I'm not actually, I'm sorting and filtering for certain things in my environment. But if you live from a thing, you're traveling, you're going, like for me with Ireland, I didn't book anything, no hotels, no nothing. Each day I got up and I was like, I'm expecting something good to occur, and I'm going to look for signs that it is. And one thing after another led to like me attending the World Peace Summit with these incredible people and spending 2 nights on a compound. And I got to facilitate a workshop, like random kind of thing, that just one chain after the other. But I like that, which is like, I'm expecting something, because what typically people operate in is, when is the shoe going to drop? When is something bad going to occur? Something's going to occur. And then they start to look for signs that the shoe's going to drop. Something bad's going to occur. I'm going to lose a client. This is going to like, what's going to happen? And people are kind of living that way, especially how they relate to AI and what's coming in the great disruption, is they're expecting something bad to occur, and then they're going to sort for where that is. I just take the opposite approach. I expect something good to occur no matter what I'm doing. And then I'm going to sort for where the sign is. Where is the thing? Oh, it is happening.
I totally resonate with that. I like, there might be slight subtle variations of from my view, but I definitely when something, whatever happens, I see it as like, this is the best thing to happen for me, regardless of how blissful or not it might be.
When we moved here, I don't know if you ever got this into this kind of like back and forth. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Is it the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? We kind of get into this binary way of thinking. Is this the right decision? Should I do this or should I do that? Should I do this? What's the right thing to do? And most people really get frozen when they're in this binary way of thinking. And when we, I had a dream about living in Boulder. I had never been here before, 3 months into the pandemic. And I told my wife, I was like, I had this strange dream. We lived in Boulder. You know, we were living in New York at the time. And my wife, being my wife, who's always down to like do shit right away, she's like, let's go visit. And so we get on a plane like a couple of days later, masks, 5 people on the airplane because it's like June of like COVID just hitting, right? It hadn't even hit in Colorado yet, really. And we were like, well, let's look for homes. This is amazing. We got here. It was like incredible. And we wound up buying a house on day 3. But I remember like hiking and thinking, should we move? Should we not move? Like there were so many things to consider. And I was like, is this the right decision? Is this the wrong decision? But the reframe that I had on that one was, what would make this the right decision? And I made a list of things, and I've basically, that became like, wow, this would make it the right decision. Like, I think Ellen Langer says, make the decision right. Right. Don't worry about, is it the right decision? Just make the decision right as a way. But I always ask myself, what would make it the right decision? And then I start to imagine all of the things that would need to occur for it to be the right decision. And then those become my intentions when I got here. And I've achieved all of them pretty much. Wow. Right. Which was like a very active outdoor lifestyle, building a really healthy, thriving community, having my son flourish here and giving him the great opportunities, you know, growing up as a 14-year-old. Yeah, just having a beautiful, spacious home where we can host people and actually build our community. And that would make it the right decision. And we came here and we did all those. Right. So I like to look through that lens.
I think that's a powerful one. I like that. Yeah, I mean, to reiterate how I think I see it is like everything that happens, I see it as this was the best thing to happen. And then that kind of keeps, there's like an ongoing affirmation there. And I think it makes it better when I think it's the best. I think if I think what just happened is the best thing to happen, then it makes the future things better as well.
Yeah, because then it cultivates a resourceful state where your nervous system is not in this dysregulated place. Because if it was not the best decision, and then you start spiraling, you know, you get into a dysregulated state, and then people are walking around trying to create in the world from a very dysregulated place, right? To me, the most important thing is a regulated nervous system, because from there you generate stories about your life, and then from that story you start to create strategies on how are you going to achieve something. So how do you develop a really regulated, open, resourceful nervous system? That's the first place to start. And it sounds like the way that you think, your filters, your philosophies tend to cultivate a resourceful state.
Yeah, because like right now I could be thinking about like, oh, I had this question, I meant to ask that, or I wish we had talked about that, but I don't think that way.
Right.
I don't, and I hear about other people thinking this way.
Yeah.
I think that's so ridiculous.
Yeah. What kind of state would you be in if you started to think, oh shit, I didn't ask the right question? And, you know, like how would that impact you in your nervous system?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast. It's quite relaxing in that way to realize that everything we talk about is the best thing for us to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Or in that case, you want to do these popcorn questions real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Wow.
Are you good at doing quick answers?
Sure.
We'll see. It can be tricky for some people.
Yeah.
I made a note to myself. Here we go. How are we on the timing now? Are we on like 101 or something? 58. All right, good. Here we go. All right. What's a belief system most people carry that silently destroys their relationship?
Their relationship with,
Let's say their significant other.
yeah, that the other person, however the other person is showing up, is the reason why they can't do the thing that they really want to do.
That's a good one. Thank you. All right. What's what do you think that is the most potent thing someone can do to like save their marriage?
Mm. Ooh, that's a big one.
Mm.
Potent thing to save their marriage. Oh, there's so many that are required because I actually think in marriages there's no one root cause. It's a rhizome and has many layers to it. But I can share a couple things that my wife and I have done. Number one is have a third party that is helping to facilitate you in how you communicate with each other. Like the quality of the communication to me is like our therapist, we do some pack therapy, which she'll have my wife and I turn to each other. She's like, just talk. And then we'll start talking, and then we'll inevitably move into our patterns on how we work through conflict. And then she pauses, and then we work from within that. And so she's helping to create awareness about the way in which we communicate with each other. But if there isn't a kindness and a tenderness and a margin and spaciousness in the communication, to me, it just over time will just erode the relationship. So developing a really healthy frequency and harmony in the communication.
Okay. I like it. All right. What's the most powerful metaphor you've ever used in coaching?
Most powerful metaphor. So if you think about the arborist metaphor, which is you plant a seed, the roots grow down and the shoot grows up. And most of our life is built on this branch logic, right? We got to plant seeds and grow the thing that we want. I've shifted out of that model or metaphor that there is a taproot and a root cause to everything in my life and moved towards a rhizomatic model or metaphor. So a rhizome is like if you see aspen trees, there are all these trees, but underneath underneath the dirt and the darkness is an interconnected root structure. So mint, ginger, mushrooms, rhizomes, right? The mycelium, how they all connect and communicate. So I use that metaphor when I think about when someone's trying to create change in their life, they have to take a look at the whole system because the whole system, every aspect of the system controls, it impacts the system.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I relate to money, the way that I relate to my body, the way that my relationships, and the way that I connect and communicate and build community, my downtime, how I relate with myself, the work that I do. So some people think my business is over here, my family is over there, everything is separate and disconnected. And most guys can compartmentalize. The metaphor that I like to use is everything feeds everything. So when I'm in alignment and in coherence in all the different dimensions of my life, they all feed each other. My work feeds my meditation feeds my work. It feeds my intimate connection because I'm sitting in meditation with my wife in the morning. So our relationship begins to thrive. My family thrives because my wife and I are harmonious. Like when my wife and I are harmonious, we can work together and we can build our finances and create wealth together. So there's looking at it through the rhizome where everything is, because most people, they create success and they have all these side effects, destroyed marriages, unhealthy body, burned bridges and relationships. So I like to take a look at everything connects to everything.
Great. Thank you. What's the number one lie people tell themselves that keeps them from evolving?
The number one lie.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of them, but one of the ones that I see a lot is I'm behind. Like I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time is a really big one. I coach some very powerful people who run multiple companies and have dynamic lives, and they do more in a day than people do in a year, and they make time. They create time. They find ways to create time. They're not at the effective time. They're the masters of time.
Awesome. I'm assuming you being a coach evolves you as well. Is there a moment that you felt like the most evolution through your coaching?
It's a good question. The most evolution through my coaching. Well, there's in coaching, what typically happens is that the person asking the question controls the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And what I notice is that, especially people who learn skills or processes or techniques, is they're doing the technique to people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, one of the processes might be, I might be like, Daniel, tell me what your deepest fear is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So here I am asking you a question to go into your deepest fear, but I'm not doing that. And so one of my old mentors, Stephen Gilligan, who was Milton Erickson's, one of Milton Erickson's students and Gregory Bateson's students, he instilled in me, he goes, if I'm going to ask someone to do something, I'm going to go first and do it first. So before I ask you what your deepest fear is, I'm going to connect and I'm going to locate and I'm going to put my awareness and my intention on my deepest fear. And then I'm going to ask you. I'm going to go there first. And so there's something about creating resonance. And if I'm going to facilitate the growth and transformation of others, where am I in resonance with that journey? And so therefore, like, I can only take you as deep and as far as I can go myself. And so it's really taking me on a very, very deep self-understanding journey. Because I don't really do self-development, self-improvement anymore. I do self-understanding. Because the more you understand yourself, the more you grow. The more you can come into harmony and relationship with who you are, the more you develop. Right? The development improvement thing is coming from a place of like, I don't like who I am. And therefore I'm not okay in some way, shape, or form. I'm not owning who I am.
I like that distinguishing ideas. And it's funny, when we hosted our retreats and we started actually training some other people to facilitate portions of the retreat we were doing, and that was our number one thing, is you go first. That's like, remember, you go first.
Mm-hmm.
You go first.
Yeah, we used to do this thing in my men's group where if I had a judgment about you, I'm like, Daniel, you fucking talk a lot and you hog up the room. Anything that I would say, I would have to add 3 words at the end, which is just like me. So I'm like, dude, you talk too much, just like me. Because usually when I'm tracking and when I'm seeing, there's an aspect of me in there that I'm projecting onto you. And it was just a way to start to take a look at like, wow, where are my judgments of you really about me? Because that's when I'm seeing aspects of my shadow or parts that I dislike.
Yeah, I see that.
You don't really talk too much, by the way. I'm just making that up.
I might in certain contexts.
Okay.
I don't know. Where too much is just enough. All right. Can you recall a time that you failed as a coach and what it taught you?
Well, this goes back to what is failure, right? And there is this sense of like, there are times where my quote unquote failure set the seed for a breakthrough. And so that what is a failure and what is a success, I don't know. I may think I had the greatest success with the client because they did X, Y, and Z afterwards, but I have no idea, right? So, but I would say I don't really feel like I've failed anywhere. There may have been times where I had like an intuition or a hunch, and I didn't share that. And for whatever reason, I didn't feel like it was my place. I felt like it was stepping over the boundaries. Maybe I was being too aggressive. But there was a kid that I was coaching that had just gotten out of rehab, wealthy family, and it was a favor to one of my mentors, who's a rock star therapist. He got Bon Jovi sober and Aerosmith. His name is Dr. Luke Cox. He's a really incredible, amazing guy. And it was with him we kind of co-led this one client, basically. And so I coached this one kid and I got him back on his feet, got him into working. And that was my one job, is to really help him find the way he was to express himself through the work in the world. And he was in a really difficult spot where he came from a wealthy family. And because of his drug use, they pulled everything. So his whole life he was getting money and jobs and all that stuff in the family company. And then when he went to rehab, they pulled everything. So no money, no car, no job, no nothing. So you basically build this kid up till he's 30, enabling him. And then you take it all away. And then you expect him to kind of build himself back up without having the scaffolding and skill and ability. This is why it's very important to not take away challenge from kids, right? My son and I did a sweat lodge last night. He's doing a rites of passage on Thursday into manhood,
Wow.
doing Lakota tradition, 3 days up on the mountain on Thursday, taking him tomorrow
Wow.
up on the mountain. And so he'll do a vision quest, no food, no water, no shelter,
Whoa.
up on the mountain.
And
14. Yeah.
Man, that's intense.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, yeah, I've never done it like that. But the first time I water fasted, I think I was a teenager, maybe 18,
Yeah.
4 days.
Yeah.
So intense.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And so they did none of that for this kid. And then eventually the dad's like, hey, listen, no more coaching. He basically cut the contract. And that kid was dead 3 months later. And so I knew when he went to rehab that he should have never came back home. Like, he should have stayed out there. His parents should have been like, hey, you be out there, you build a life. But he went back into his old reality, his old stomping ground, where he left to heal. He came back into the structure that hadn't changed. And this is why when people are doing, when kids hit a rough patch, the family also needs to do the work. It's not the kid that needs to do the work. The whole system needs to do the work. And the family wasn't really doing the work. And so he went back into that ecosystem, and he wound up, I don't think he killed himself. I actually think whatever he did was laced with fentanyl. He was one of these fentanyl tragedies. So that, I would say, like, I don't know if I failed in any way, shape, or form in that, because my intuition was they shouldn't have let him come back, but it wasn't really my place to say that. Maybe I could have pushed the therapist to be like, he should not come back. He needs to stay. But it was like knowing what I know now, I wish I would have done that.
That's an easy one, because I've had plenty of friends that have dealt with death, and I've had friends that have died, and there seems to be a temptation to think that I could have.
Totally. There's an
I could have
inevitability.
done
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an inevitability or a fate component where I may have done that and that would have happened anyway. So I don't know. I don't beat myself up about that,
Yeah.
but just in the question and reflecting
Yeah.
on, like, wow, like thinking about because the reason why I like to think about that is moving forward, what am I noticing, feeling, or sensing that I'm not saying for whatever reason, right? And maybe I need to do a better job. Hey, I'm just going to put this on the table. You could take it or leave it. I could be completely wrong, but I'm just going to put it out there for you. And I've gotten better and better of listening to those deeper hunches and just putting it out there and saying, listen, I could be totally off here. I'm just going to put this on the table and you can do whatever you want with it. But this is what's coming up for me. And I think that's the power of real human connection, is to really feel into these subtle layers and bringing that into the awareness, bringing the unconscious conscious.
I like that. On that, all right, I'll circle back to my next. I have one more though before that.
These are
one.
fun, man. Keep them coming.
Yeah. In your work with family constellations, what's the wildest ancestral pattern you've seen play out in someone else's life?
I think, and this is something that I myself, I think, am healing from, which is carrying the pain and the trauma of an ancestor. Holding in some way, shape, or form the sadness, the pain, the guilt, the shame that wasn't theirs. And I think that happens a lot. And you see that a lot sometimes with even first or second generation kids from World War II or, Holocaust. I see that happening with children of parents who've suffered somehow, some way, and there's some entanglement there. But I think, carrying and processing trauma that's not theirs.
All right. Wow. Lots to think about here. I'm enjoying this. What's a simple question someone can ask themselves right now that could shift their entire life?
Yeah. So if you're complaining about something and you find yourself complaining more than once about a situation, typically they're in the problem filter and frame. All right. So the best question is, so this is the way it's been. How would I like it to be different? And then actually allow their internal movie system to begin to imagine how they would like it to be different, and then let that impact them. And so, for example, it could be like, yeah, God, I can't get up in the morning. I have no consistent wake up time, and I use the phone at night, and I'm always up, and my sleep's terrible. And once I hear that more than once or twice, I'm like, great, that's the way you've been. If we're in present time, up until now, that's the way you've been living. That's the way you've been. How would you like to be different? Right. And they're like, oh wow, I'd love to get to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, like have a really good like morning system. Great. And if that was the case, how would you be as a person? Just take a second and imagine, how would you be? How would that impact you? And then allow them to actually light up the neurology. Because if it's just an idea, you're never going to do it. But if you imagine it and then you feel it and go, wow, like how would I be waking up at 6 a.m. and like having like a morning ritual? I would feel great. I feel like really motivated. Great. Okay. Because most people set goals. They don't do the next step, which is what am I then able to do once I achieve the goal? And that starts to get into like purpose and meaning and like the deeper drivers. So like, what could I do? Like I can get up and like, I can meditate, I can write, I can journal, and I can plan my day out. Well, if I could do that, then I can like launch this business and I could do X, Y, and Z. So we start to set some of the deeper drivers to achieve the goal.
I like it. And then finally, any hunches for me? Since we were talking about hunches.
Hunches
Or questions.
Oh, yeah, questions. Good question. Yeah, I mean, this happens a lot for, when we have these filters, like this is the best thing that could happen, or I'm optimized for like a positive frame. But usually for men, it's what's the thing that I've been experiencing or feeling in the shadows that I haven't shared, and maybe even with myself. And really contemplating for guys who get into like, conscious ways of being and they're living a sort of conscious lifestyle, we tend to put into exile things that don't fit that narrative about ourselves, about our experiences. We just kind of tuck them away like a squirrel, and then we hide them from ourselves. And sometimes those parts that we exile into the shadows carry a lot of magic and light and fire, and sometimes the resources we need for the next developmental leap. And so going in and actually thinking about like, what have I tucked away or have been experiencing that I've put into amnesia, where I'm not even conscious that I feel it. It's almost like I have no memory of it. And I think that I tend to, even with friends, I'm like, what have you been experiencing that you just haven't really shared with yourself even? And it may be because you don't know how to articulate it. So it's not even verbal. It's like you can't even like understand what it is. So I always find like there's a lot of power in really going, what am I experiencing that I haven't really shared, but I've been carrying it? And then I tuck it away, I push it away, I distract myself in some way, shape, or form. But sometimes bringing that into consciousness and sharing it, there's something that unlocks in there. There's a part that I get to integrate.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I hear you. It might not need like a verbal answer in the moment.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that certain things are coming to mind already.
Yeah. It's a beautiful question. Usually what I like to do is I like to pre-frame it with a lot of grounding resource, like get the person really grounded, really resourceful, super open-hearted, and then what's the thing you haven't been sharing? Because then it comes through in a very safe environment, right? So when people share trauma or painful experiences in a present moment that's very safe and accepting and loving and grounded, the memory, I don't know if you know about this, about reconsolidation, how healing happens in memory.
Okay.
So when you have a memory of a tragic moment or a painful moment, your brain needs to revivify it. It has to reconstruct it, has to recreate it from all the different places in the brain. So you reconstruct this memory. And then what happens is, as I share this memory, you're also in the field, in the memory. That's why therapy is so powerful, is when you have someone that's holding a space that's loving, kind, accepting, non-judgmental, non-shaming, and you share something that you have a lot of shame with, and then I share it with you, you're like, huh, yeah, I did that too. You're like, really? Wow. When you go to sleep at night, your brain reconsolidates the memory into long-term storage, but it takes you into the memory. So that memory is plastic. It's not static. So when that memory goes back into long-term storage, it's now holding acceptance, love, and non-shaming energy to it. You do that enough times, the memory has no power or charge around it. But if you share that moment with someone who's like, dude, that's fucked up. Like you're a fucking idiot. and more shaming, it goes back with more
Mhm.
shame, right? That's why it's really
Mhm.
important that you find people that you can share difficult things with that can actually hold it and help frame it in a generative way. Like for you, you're like, wow, that's the great. So how do we utilize that to kind of take you forward? Yeah. So I always encourage people to have somebody that they can talk to, therapist, coach. I mean, some people are doing that with AI, and I think AI has a place in the conversation, but there is a large amount that doesn't happen because it's disembodied. AI doesn't have a body. It's not learned wisdom. There's no learned experience there. It's kind of pulling all these patterns, and it's great to kind of understand, but real transformation doesn't come from information.
Hmm.
Information doesn't create transformation. There's a whole topic there on
Yeah,
AI,
you
which
just
we can get.
reminded me. I'm just like having so many like visceral memories of us hosting the retreats. I'm gonna have to get you a Breaking Normal book, and it seems like we've scratched like the surface of similar type of strategies to just unlock more of who we are.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I just had this conversation. I had just realized myself that I do want someone to talk to
Mm.
about certain things that
Hmm.
and because my life has changed a little bit in a way where I don't have that person currently.
Yeah.
And I had a couple people in mind. I'm actually I take that so sincerely
Hmm.
that I am in action of that. I do think one of the greatest health hacks in the world, if you want to call it that, is to have at least one person you can share everything with.
100%.
Even the scary thoughts, even the
Yeah.
crazy ones,
Yeah.
even the ones no one knows.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very powerful. Yeah, because some people get to this place where like what has been no longer works, but what's the next thing hasn't been discovered yet. So there's this kind of very in between possibility space. And like typically how I show up in people's relationships for coaching is expanding the possibility frame, like opening up their ability to see new possibilities,
Hmm.
and then helping them to create the scaffolding to take the step into that and create that like that loop, that compounding loop.
Yeah, I'm like getting this idea of like remembering the future to change the past. Remembering the future to change the
Yeah,
past. It seems
yeah,
like some of your work is revolved around
yeah. It's big.
that.
It's how we remember things. It's memory is fickle,
Yeah.
so fickle.
Well, thanks for creating a good
Yeah,
one with me today.
yeah, beautiful.
Many good
Enjoyed it.
ones.
Yeah,
Thank you
enjoyed
all.
your. Yeah,
200. Congrats.
yeah, beautiful.
Are we at 111? Now I'm just like getting caught up.
1-2-1.
Oh, 1,
2,
2,
1.
1. Oh,
Oh,
wow.
look,
You
actually,
really bent time.
you can see it right there on the bottom
See,
right.
oh, see, I haven't even been cheating like that.
Yeah. You get 30 frames per second
All right, y'all.
at 4% CPU.
Reach out to John O'Connor. Let's get him more involved with some social media and keep breaking normal. Let us know what you thought about the show. Leave some questions below.